additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Second. A motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
I'm gonna back up 2 seconds and I'm just gonna, for awareness of the room, this meeting is being held in accordance with chapters 21 and 22 of the Iowa Code for Open Public Meetings. And just so everyone's aware, we are live casting our meetings to YouTube now, so just so that everybody has that in the back of their minds. Okay.
Okay, everybody read the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, fiscal year 2025, final transportation planning work program.
So can I interrupt you first, Carlos, and interject something real quick here? So we have a new planner in the room. This is Mia Pottawattamie. She is gonna be kind of taking over the role that Travis had before he left. So over the next few months, we'll be transitioning the admin responsibilities for this committee from me over to her. So I'll still be around to assist with things, especially during that transition period. But just to introduce everybody to Mia. And if we wouldn't mind kind of going around the room quick, just so that you can kind of hear about who all is here, that would be super helpful.
I'm Charlie Parker, Shelby County Supervisor.
Chris Ferguson, Shelby County Engineer.
Thank you, Chris, Mayor of Glenwood.
Jeremy Clark, Glenwood's Public Works Director.
Richard Crouch, Mills County Supervisor.
Susan Miller, Pottawattamie County Supervisor.
John Rasmussen, Pottawattamie County Engineer.
Carlos, Transportation Butter.
Or not.
Dave Farrell, Mills County Engineer.
Thanks, nice to meet everyone.
Nice.
You.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Carlos, go ahead.
All right.
Oh, and we also have Jean Geddes online. Jean, if you want to introduce yourself too.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but nice to meet you, and I'll be listening in. Thank you.
And then online, we also have Travis from Iowa DOT. So Travis is the former Mia. So Travis, I don't know if you want to say anything, but now's your chance.
Good to see everybody.
Hi, Travis.
Thanks. Okay, Carlos, go ahead.
All right, so we're gonna talk about the fiscal year 2025 transportation planning work program. So this is required by federal requirements for our metropolitan planning organization. But on Iowa, it's also required for all our RPA districts to develop a one-year plan to develop how we're going to spend our allocated planning funds. The big focus areas in the coming year will be the long-range transportation plan. It's due fall of 2025. So what we're doing is engaging, and we'll see more of this throughout this coming year. Additional engagement, additional information as we update our long-range transportation plan. Two, we're gonna try and continue to do these block talks, getting out to the local communities, trying to figure out how we can make transportation funding work for our local communities. This will be coupled with our Safe Streets and Roads for All. Last year, we mentioned that we did receive federal funding to do these Safe Streets projects in 7 select communities within RPA 18 and RPA 13. So that project is gonna move forward. We're currently in the stage of signing the federal agreement, and more information will come in the coming year. We're also looking forward to trail development and organizing around some of the Mills County trails, some of the Shelby County trails, et cetera, et cetera. And also seeking and helping out in finding discretionary funding. So those are our kind of work priorities. Next page. Here's our program budget, how it kind of boils down to. We receive about $94,000 dollars or $1,000 from Iowa DOT to develop this work. Obviously, that's not enough to staff all 4 of us full-time to dedicate everything that we can. So part of our work is going to be in the RPA, and the other part is outside the RPA and outside of RPA. But that's how it boils down to. one of the biggest differences from year to year is this last kind of item. This is the Safe Streets and Roads for All. We have 125,000 dedicated to this Safe Streets and Roads for All for Region 13 and Region 18, RPA 18 and 13s. This is just a line item. It's new. It's outside our normal work that we do, so we put it in there just to make sure everyone understands. Question, I'll pause right here. Question. Hearing none, next slide. So here's our timeline. We presented the draft a couple months ago in March. Not a whole lot has changed between March and now. We have received 0 public comments in between this public comment period. We received comments from Iowa DOT. Nothing very significant, just administrative, make sure you sign all your pages and documents, which we hope to do today. Our final plan is due to Iowa DOT at the end of this month. So we're seeking favorable approval. I went ahead and added additional information, which we'll talk about when Lindsay talks more, but this is how it relates. We developed our work program in March. We have our final work program in May, delivered to Iowa DOT. This same May time, we're also presenting our draft tip, right? And then the tip goes forward, June meeting, final tip due to Iowa DOT by July 15th. So all these pieces kind of come together and work together to form what we do in any given year. Next slide. And I'll let Lindsay take this over, please.
Yeah, so what we're looking for today is our board approval of the final transportation planning work plan. Once that has been approved, we can send it over to IDOT and call it good for this year. So as you guys know, we kind of split this group into our technical committee and our board. So I've started trying to put these slides together to make it a little more straightforward. If you're not sure which one you are on, please let me know and I can let you know. So first off, our technical committee is our transportation experts, our engineers, the public works and such, so, and Iowa DOT and transit. So if you guys, we would like to request a motion from the technical committee to approve the final transportation planning work program. And then that recommendation would be approved by the board.
I'll move to approve the work program.
So motion by John, yeah. You have a second?
Second.
Second by Clark. All in favor? Sorry, I don't mean to steal your.
No, go ahead.
So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Perfect. So then with that recommendation from the technical committee, we will request a motion from the board to approve that recommendation.
Motion.
Motion. Second. Perfect. Motion Park first, second Winquist. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Perfect, motion passes. And then Charlie, I'm gonna give you this resolution to sign, and then we are all set on TPWB. Great, thanks guys.
Lindsay,
Yes,
I'm just saying on the minutes, I should have saw before, but I don't have my name listed on the technical board, voting
Sorry?
members. Should I be on the technical board, voting
Correct.
members?
Yes.
On the minutes for March 20th?
oh, the attendance is off, or where is that on?
Yeah, for in attendance, it had me on the policy because I was acting for Richard, but should I be on both?
Okay, yes, you should be on both, and we'll make sure that we get that updated, thanks. All right.
Okay. Next, we have the draft transportation improvement program.
Okay, so our fiscal 25 draft transportation improvement plan, I know that we have is a program, not a plan, my brain got crossed. So I know we have a couple new people in the room, so I put together this slide as kind of a bit of background information on what the TIP is. First off, it's a program, not a plan. That was my bad. So it is one of our annual work products that are required federally for all MPOs. And then Iowa DOT requires it from all RPAs as well. And what this document does is it feeds into Iowa's state transportation improvement program. which ultimately is a list of capital and non-capital projects within the boundaries of the RPA proposed for federal aid and SWAP funding. So the TIP programs, projects, and services for fiscal 25, 6, 7, and 8. So it's a 4-year document. Reminder that federal fiscal starts October 1st. And regional projects under STBG and the Transportation Alternative Program are selected based on regional priorities. And we did that project selection at our last meeting in March. So the TIP includes projects from other federal funding streams as well. So like Highway Safety Improvement Program, things like that. But the only projects that we select here are for the STBG and PASA or TAP program. So a quick summary, we have about $5 million programmed in fiscal 25 for STBG and about $947,000 programmed in TAP. For 2025, this includes both projects that were selected in March, as well as a couple of rollover projects from 24 that aren't going to be let in time to meet that October 1st deadline. We are going to request of this group approval of that final document. I'll go through some summary slides here in a minute. That draft document is then going to be open to the public for comment from May 23rd, which is tomorrow, until June 21st. So that's a 25-day public comment period. And then we need to send it to Iowa DOT for review and comment on June 15th. And then all of those comments will be incorporated into the main document, and we will put together the final version of that document, which we will present to this group in July for final approval and submission to the DOT. So local project updates. The first thing we're going to do is go through fiscal 24, which is the year we're in right now. That will be up in October. So these are all of the local projects that were set for letting in 24, as well as their project status updates. So the ID is how it's identified in TPMS. We have the sponsor, a brief description, where the funding is coming for, and the status update that I received. So I'm not going to go through each of these in too much detail, but safe to say you guys can take a look at this chart here quick and let me know if anything is missing, or if anything that is on this list has inaccurate information, and that would be important for us to know to be able to update into that document. So Glenwood, for example, has a couple of projects in the TAP that we are rolling over into 25. I reached out to Amber and she got back to me and said that those aren't going to be ready to let before that deadline. So we're just rolling them over into fiscal 25 to make sure that they're still.
And our local street is actually in process right now.
Yep, so that's the first one. So I've noted kind of.
You started early.
Yeah, oh no, you're good. So this one is ready to go. So it says anticipated completion in the fall, so that should be within the 24 deadline. If anything does happen with that project to push it out, just let me know and we can do an amendment and push it over to 25. This TAP project, I have a note here that it's gonna get rolled over into fiscal 25. So the ones rolling over are this East Sharp pedestrian trail, the East Sharp walking bike trail, and Pot County Conservation trail down there. So those are the only three that look like they needed to roll over. So does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about this project list? Okay, hearing none. We also have the Iowa DOT projects for fiscal 24. It looked, Scott, you mentioned that those are all on track and set to be let before fiscal 25. So I don't currently have any of those as rolling over. Does that look about correct?
Yep.
Perfect. So those are all of the projects that are currently set for fiscal 24 for federal funding. So you'll notice, especially on these Iowa DOT projects, that we have like HSIP, PRF, and other funding sources, all represented in this document. Okay, so this is a quick recap of our meeting that we had in March. These were the projects that were applied for in that call for projects. And we've got listed here the sponsor, the project, the amount that it was approved for at that last March meeting, where the funds are coming from, and what program year that is set to be let in. So again, this is kind of what we voted on last time. If there's anything that looks out of place here, let me know. Speak now or forever hold your peace, as word. Or at least until something happens and we have to amend it later. Okay, so with that, we're gonna go into 25. So this is the first year of this TIP program. we're only really putting up the first year because we want to make sure that all projects that are currently set to be let next year are in there and are ready to go so that you don't run into any hiccups when you go to set for reimbursement and get those projects moving. So this is showing the STBG projects. Again, because this group only administratively handles STBG and TAP, those are the only projects that I have up in these tables. The tables in the document itself do outline all of those federal funding sources. So if you have other projects under the bridge program, for example, they're not going to show up in this presentation, but they are in the document. So if you want to take a look at that, then please feel free to do so as well. So this is kind of a standard TPMS output table. We have the project ID and sponsor in that first column, a brief description and location in that second column. The status, they're currently all set to submitted. Once the draft tip is approved at this meeting, or if you guys don't have any particularly glaring corrections that need doing, then once it's approved, I will go into TPMS and I will change the approval level on all of these projects from submitted to draft tip approved. And I will kind of reprint these tables and replace them in the version of the draft tip that you guys received today. So the version you see today will have that one update before it goes out to the public for comment tomorrow. And then we've got our total project cost, the federal aid share. If it says regional, that's something coming from our regional allocation funds. And then swap funding and the totals at the end column there. So if it's a project that's split up between multiple years, it shows that as well. So this is the same table but for our TAP projects that are currently programmed for 25. And you'll see that we've got the two Glenwood projects and the Pot County Conservation Board projects are showing in 25 because those are the ones that rolled over. And then the Shelby County Trails Board as that new project that we selected in March. The Logan Safe Streets project is showing up in 26, but because that's 1 year out from the first immediate year, we're not reviewing it in as much detail today. Any questions, comments, concerns? No? Okay, moving on. Here are our fiscal constraint tables for both of those two funding programs again. So it's just showing here the balance or carryover that we had from the end of last fiscal. The funding target is the total amount of funds that was allocated to our region for that year. We get those numbers from Iowa DOT in the spring. Total funds available for programming are just the sum of that balance and the funding target, and then programmed funds shows the funds that we have allocated to various projects in those fiscal years. At the bottom, we have that balance of STBG funds, and then you can see that's kind of just carried over into that first column, first row of the next fiscal year's column. I will point out, just as a reminder from our project selection not last month, the month before, that we now only have about just shy of $9,000 to roll over into fiscal 29. So just a thing to keep in mind when we start having our conversation about calls for projects for the coming year. Next table is table 2. That's the exact same thing, but for TAP. Our starting balance here is now 581. You might remember that's a little bit higher. That's almost double actually from what it was when we discussed this at the meeting in March. That's because there are a couple projects since then that have been closed out, and there were a couple historical projects that had been closed out, and the balance of those funds that were not used had not yet been returned to the RPA pool of funding. So those have now been reallocated to the RPA to use to program for other projects. So that number is a bit higher than it was. We were still shy. So we had a conversation about programming the Shelby County Trail and the City of Logan Trail in March, and we didn't quite have enough funding to put them both in 25. This gets us very close, but still not quite enough to do both in 25. So we left them at 25 for Shelby County and 26 for the City of Logan. So do we have any questions, comments, concerns on these ones? Right? Yeah.
And the big thing we're looking for is that bottom number. If that ever is negative, we get in trouble with that guy. So
Yeah, so these both need to be in fiscal constraint, which just basically means that we look at the amount of money we have left over, the amount of money we get every year. We need to make sure that what we are programming stays within those values so that we're not trying to fund more projects than we have money for.
So one little concern about fiscal year 28 in SDBG is that 8,000. So what would hamper that number would be if a project comes in at a higher cost than was programmed and you need additional funds, that's gonna be harder to do. That means some projects may need to be pushed out further out, and or we're gonna have to have some of those conversations. Just putting it in people's ear, just so you understand our process and that you understand your responsibilities with your projects. Just don't do cost overruns, guys. Okay. But just to be aware, we're good in the first 3 years, but the fourth year kind of looks a little bit closer than I'm comfortable.
Scott, do you know how much overrun we can do on federal aid without redoing the agreement? Can we do like 20%?
I think it is like.
It's about 30% or $2 million.
Is
We
that
should-
almost 30%?
We should maintain a balance of that.
Yeah.
And so that's why the last year is kind of below that threshold, and so that's why I'm bringing it up, so we're aware.
Yeah, that 30% 2 mil, I think, is the cap for when it needs to be amended into the tip. Through a voting process. I think if it's less than one, you can make those modifications administratively. But regardless of the mechanism for adding additional funding to those projects, that $9,000 is basically all of the flex funding we have to work with between now and 28. So it's real tight.
And so in the fall, when we come back to talk about the next call, maybe we pause 1 year of SDBG submissions to allow things to catch up, make sure we don't have overruns. Still open up the TASA, since there is some money available there to start programming out years. Again, additional conversations for us to have in the fall, just be aware.
Great, so here's a quick timeline then for this work product. We have the draft approval, which is ideally going through today. Then we will open that public comment from May 23rd to June 21st. Draft is due to Iowa DOT June 15th. Approval of the final document July 10th, which is our next meeting. And then the final tip is due to Iowa DOT on July 15th. So all that is to say that come July again, we're gonna need quorum so that we can approve this document to get it into Iowa DOT in time to meet that deadline. So with all that said, then we are splitting this up for vote the same way that we did for the TPWP. So we are requesting that the technical committee recommend board approval of the fiscal 25 draft tip and opening of that public comment period. We have a motion? Or I guess opening the floor for general comments before we try to request a motion.
Move approve, Rasmus.
Second,
Motion and seconded. Do we all in favor say aye? All opposed, same sign. Perfect. So moving on to the policy board then, we are requesting a motion to approve the technical committee's recommendation.
So move.
So moved by Crouch, second.
Second.
Second Parker, so all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Awesome, thank you guys so much. We will put that document up on our website and open that public comment period. It should be good to go for tomorrow. Committee elections, so this is the next thing we've got on the agenda. So a bit of background again for new people in the room. RPA 18 officers for both technical committee and policy board are selected and elected on an annual basis and assume responsibilities July 1st. The policy board is set up in general to guide and set the policy of the RPA 18 on matters necessary to comply with state and federal legislation. So that includes the tip that we just talked about, the TPWP that Carlos went over earlier. The PTP is the passenger transportation plan, and we put that one out last year, and I believe that's a 5-year document, so we won't look at that one again for a couple of years yet. And then the long range transportation plan, which we are getting into swing of working on now, and Mia is going to present on that in a little bit here. Policy board officers must be elected officials from member jurisdictions, so current members of the RPA policy board. Technical committee is responsible to the board for initiation, review, and recommendations on transportation-related activities of the RPA. And consist of technical experts, so engineers, public works, planners, and transit. I will make note to this group that currently we do not have any official bylaws for the technical committee. That is something we are looking at as MAPA staff to evaluate in the coming year to try and set something up to make that group more official. The origin of the technical committee came out of one of our Iowa DOT audits where they requested that we make sure we have that expertise in the room. So for now, we are following similar guidelines and bylaws for what we do for the policy board. And the responsibilities of the elected officers are going to follow that framework as well. So current officers for the technical committee, we have John Maselson as our chair. There is currently no vice chair for technical committee, and because we don't have any bylaws, I will leave that up to you guys if you want a vice chair, we can have that discussion. Our current chair for policy board is Charlie Parkhurst. Again, that vice chair position is currently vacant. However, upon review of the bylaws, we do need to make sure that we put in a policy board vice chair at this time. So what is required of a chair and a vice chair? So historically, it's been very much, to not mince words, it's been very much of a rubber stampy position, which is totally great and means less work for everybody involved, which is cool. But because we have a couple larger projects coming up, specifically with the Safe Streets and Roads for All Safety Action Plan that Carlos mentioned earlier, and our long-range transportation plan, which Mia will discuss in a bit, we are going to be asking our chairs and vice chairs to give us a little bit more assistance in the development of those plans. So it's mostly just going to be kind of regional coordination help and kind of occasional meetings to go over plans for the RPA moving forward. So per the bylaws, the responsibility of a chair, and again, we're using the policy board bylaws to define positions for both the policy board and the technical committee right now. The chair is responsible for presiding at all meetings of the policy board, for executing policy board resolutions, transportation planning, grant applications, contracts, and other official documents of the policy board. So that's basically a read and sign role. Provide official notice of all official meetings of the policy board. So that's basically having your name on the agendas when they go out. And determining items of business to be considered at all official meetings of the policy board. And so that's something that we're going to want to make sure that we're doing a little coordination on forward, so that we as MAPA, as an administrative support, are taking more of that support role, and as opposed to kind of trying to dictate how these meetings need to go. Vice chair responsibilities per those bylaws are basically to perform the duties of the chair in the chair's absence. Have any questions or comments at this point?
Is there a purpose for the chair of the technical committee the way we do it now, though? I mean, there's.
Yeah.
Before I was just filling in if the policy board chair was gone, so if there's a vice chair there, is there really purpose having a chair in the technical committee?
I mean, that is a good.
It is a fancy title, but.
It is a fancy title. I mean, you wanna forfeit your fancy title?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right, so that's a good question, and that's kind of something that we will want to formalize a little bit more moving forward. I think especially given that we need to develop those bylaws for the technical committee, it would be good to have a chair in that role to kind of help with that development process and kind of, so we can consult as we're going through and figuring that out. It will also generally be a bigger group discussion. We're probably going to try to draft something and then just bring it to the group for workshopping in that regard. It is good to have a chair of the technical committee to, well, would be to lead those technical committee motions, votes, and aspects. But I guess I would open that up to the group.
So you're saying no?
I'm saying it's good to have. I'm saying it's good to have, but at this time, it's not super formal, I guess.
Most every technical committee across the state does have a chair that leads the meetings. You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a little weird because we kind of merge these two meetings into one just because everybody is gonna be getting the same information anyway, and we kind of want to open it up to that discussion between everybody involved. So when that happens, the technical committee chair role does get a little less responsibilities than maybe the policy board would have. Because I'm still operating under the assumption that people don't want us to be doing 2 separate meetings. Alright, so this I already went over, so we don't necessarily need a vice chair for the technical committee, but we do need one for the policy board. So policy board vice chair, just per the existing bylaws, must be an elected official representing your member jurisdiction, so a member of the policy board. Vice chair and chair do not represent the same jurisdiction. Otherwise, I think that basically sums up everything there. I don't need to read it out. If people want me to. You know, I love the sound of my own voice. I don't know how much everybody else does.
Committee? That's fine.
That kind of perfectly leads us into our next thing. So we'll open the floor then for nominations for, well, I guess first, do we want a vice chair for the technical committee? Put that on the floor.
We don't need it.
I don't think it's purpose.
Okay.
Vice chair.
Perfect, so nominated vice chair. In that case, I will open the floor to nominations for a chair of the technical committee.
I'm gonna nominate Jake Farrow. That's what you agreed to. We're trying to whisper across it.
I thought I was agreeing, and then I got canned, so.
Oh. Sorry about that. It's awesome.
Jake, would you accept that nomination?
Sure.
Do you have any other nominations? Well, in that case, I would request a motion to elect Jake Farrow as the new chair of the RPA 18 technical committee.
Motion.
Oh, you're not on the technical committee.
Oh, that's right. Was there a second on my nomination? Yes.
Okay, yeah. Is there a second on the nomination?
I'll second it.
Okay. Chris Frederickson?
You can't get up on it.
I know. You'll do a great job.
Okay, so we have a nomination and a second on that. Does that work the same as the motion? Yes.
I need an upgraded name tag.
You do need an updated name. That's important. Well, John, we lost John, so we'll make John a new one and we'll make sure he has the. Okay, so a motion to elect then.
That's fresh to throw Steve in there, he's not here to defend himself.
It's true.
Huh?
I make a motion to accept Jake as the technical committee chairperson.
Perfect.
Second.
Second by Russ. All in favor on the technical committee, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Jake, are you gonna vote for yourself or are you abstaining or? Aye. Aye, perfect. All right, so Jake Farrow is our new chair for the RPA 18 technical committee. That will be assuming responsibilities July 1. Perfect, so now we're gonna move on to policy board. So as mentioned, we do need to set up a policy board vice chair. So with that being said, I will open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I would nominate Susan.
For vice chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Awesome. Any other nominations for vice chair? Perfect, then I would request a motion to elect Susan Miller as the vice chair for RPA 18 policy board. Okay, Parker's motion second. Wingfoot second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Great, then Susan Miller, welcome as our new vice chair for policy board. Thank you. Congratulations. We'll now open the floor for nominations for the chair of the RPA 18 policy board.
I think Trevor does a great job.
As long as I'm here.
Well, we're not, Susan's got it under control.
Yeah, that's why I nominated her.
John picks me up.
See, there's so much coordination. Alright, so we have a nomination for Charlie Parkhurst as turning chair of the RPA team policy board. We have a second on that nomination. Angie or Richard?
I'll second.
Perfect. Right, second for Crouch, so then I will request a motion to elect Charles Parkhurst as chair of the RPA team policy board. Moved by Angie Winquist, second. Second Susan Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Great. Well then, Charlie, congratulations. You have a
Thank you.
continuing chair of the RPA team policy board.
Didn't have to change your name.
You don't have to change your name, Ted. It works out. Perfect.
You made the wrong nomination.
Huh?
You gotta throw somebody under the bus, you made the wrong nomination. You have to nominate people for your.
All right, I think Charlie was great.
You learn as you go, you know.
All right, so that concludes our elections.
Okay. Long range transportation plan. Update.
Arrow keys shoot. It might be like slightly too far from the computer over here. No, there you go, just do these ones. If it doesn't work, let me know. Let me pass it back.
Okay, so long range transportation plan, we'll just do a brief overview of what it is, review the previous iteration, and then talk a little bit about planning ahead. I understand there's some new people and I'm new myself, so it'll help all of us to go through a little bit of this information. So a long range transportation plan is a federally required element for planning, for transportation planning for metropolitan planning organizations or MPOs. The Iowa DOT has also extended this requirement for regional planning affiliations or RPAs. It's a document that needs to be updated every 5 years, and it has a planning horizon of 20 years beyond its 5-year period. So for example, the previous one, the 2045 plan, was approved in the fall of 2020. It spans a period of 5 years, so it goes until the fall of 2025. And with a planning of horizon of 20 years, that's how you get the 2045. And so the next update is due next fall, so November 2025, and then that will be called the 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan, or LRTP. And so the LRTP does several things. It gives a summary of the current status of a region's transportation system and looks ahead to future needs. It helps provide a framework for to direct planning efforts and to determine the best way to make investments in plans and programs for the region. It looks at travel patterns and any changes and takes into account priorities for funding. And very critical aspect of it is involving the public and incorporating stakeholder and public input in drafting the document. So looking back at the 2045 process, there were different engagement techniques and opportunities that were used. For example, there were public participation opportunities where goals were prioritized, and also some budgeting activities. For example, people were given chips that represented 10% of the budget to help prioritize projects. And there were also surveys online and also on paper, and approximately 100 responses, I think, were received in addition to the in-person comments and feedback. And NAPA staff presented draft materials to the Board of Supervisors meetings in Harrison, Shelby, Mills, and Pottawattamie counties, and also at the city council meetings of some of the larger cities, Glenwood, Berlin, and Missouri Valley. And basically, all of these efforts led to opportunities to discuss transportation issues, local priorities, and basically help set goals and priorities for the LRTP. And so this is how all of these efforts led to the following 6 goals being incorporated into the 2045 LRTP. I'll just quickly go through them. First one is preservation, so basically maintaining existing transportation assets, things like roads, bridges, trails, transit vehicles. Safety, pretty self-explanatory, making investments in improving the safety of the transportation system. Economic, which means creating transportation networks that promote economic development as well as the safe and efficient movement of goods throughout the region. Environment, basically balancing different modes of transportation that helps contribute to protecting the environment. Increasing transportation options, so basically making it easier for people to make choices and to use various modes of transportation. And finally, land use and growth, so supporting plans that supporting investment in a transportation system that lends itself to more compact development. And so in order to do throughout the process of the LRTP development, different things are considered. Demographic data is looked at, so changes in population, characteristics of the population and so on. How land use may be changing, for example, where new employment might be taking place, things like that. The loss of farmland also is something that was looked at in the previous iteration. And taking inventory basically of roadways and their condition, the movement of freight, and looking also at safety data, things like crash information, what types of crashes occurred and what contributed to them, as well as funding sources and amounts and things like that. And so by looking at the state of affairs, basically determining what needs to be improved, what needs to be changed, and anticipating future needs and planning for them. So some of the key findings from that arose during the development of the previous LRTP, there has been an increase in traffic volume in rural areas. There are a lot of non-contiguous farm parcels. There's increasing farming activity, but it's being done less by full-time farmers, basically. So bigger operations with increased yield, crop yields is leading to the need for heavier and larger machinery vehicles. And this is starting to place more of a burden on secondary roads as, bringing crop to market. And there's been more of a dispersal in work, commuting for work locations are becoming more dispersed. And a lot of the trips are longer and people are basically making most of those trips alone in their private vehicles. There have been some changes in population, but overall throughout the 70-year period of 1940 to 2010, overall there's been a decrease in the population in the region. And also the population is aging. And so part of the fluctuation in population is the increases in the more urban communities, and that's expected to continue in that direction, and then decrease in the more rural areas. As I said, longer trips put more frequent and longer trips put more demands on the roads, and there are both physical improvements that are anticipated, and there was also emphasis on attempting to decrease dependence on private vehicles. And so in preparation for the 2050 LRTP, basically some decisions have to be made. Do we follow along the same path as in the 2040 LRTP, Or do we reconsider and revise goals? For example, the goal of resilience was discussed, potentially adding a goal that basically addresses the need for maintenance, but also response before, during, and after natural disasters or man-made disasters. And then sort of reevaluating priorities, you know, do we want to emphasize things like transit and multimodal transportation and the needs of aging drivers and road conditions and so on. So we have this, to get us started, we have a couple of sort of survey questions that we're going to do through this website. So if you want to scan the QR code or go to the website, you can enter.
So this is our interactive part,
Yeah.
y'all. Bust out your phones, which I know everyone has. And please follow on to.
Today. Jamie, you can use mine if you're very careful. I can let you use mine.
I was very unhappy last night when I.
So if you haven't used Menti before.
How to use.
I have no idea, let's scan a QR code, but turn mine on.
Oh, no. Or you can go to the
Right.
website.
Yeah, so.
So
Is it-
Lindsay,
so we're
you
gonna-
can explain how Menti works.
Yeah. So so just wait there on that one, Jamie, and we'll go through. So if you've got your phones out, you can kind of scan that QR code with your camera. Or you can open your browser and go to menti.com and enter the code that we have on that screen there. So that's 1875-2176. And then you can give me a thumbs up on that page once you've made it in. We can kind of keep track of who all has been able to log into the tool or not. Susan, Sunflower John, would you like to use the laptop? There you go.
What?
Do you want to use a laptop? I can get you on the laptop.
I'm in.
Oh, you got yours? Okay. Yours,
Hey, thumbs up.
perfect. Like I couldn't see the phones.
Oh,
Stealth phones,
Steve.
very sneaky. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're waiting for you to make it.
I think we got.
Not yet.
Is Jean online?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jean, you can do this online as well.
No.
Alright, so Shelley, you open your phone or open your phone.
Yeah, I've already done a thumbs up on it. I've got it.
Oh, perfect. There you go. Perfect. Okay.
Make sense. Yeah. So our first question is about goals and looking at the goals from the 2045 LRTP in addition to the potential new goal of resilience. And we kind of have a short summary of each one. We'd like you to rank them. So number 1 would be your highest priority, number 7 would be your lowest priority.
So on your phone, if you scroll down, there will be like a row for each of these priorities, and you should be able to like click on it, drag them and drop them into the order that you choose. And then once they're in the right order, if you go all the way down to the bottom, there's a submit button. If anyone
See
needs-
things changing your mind.
But don't look at it, it'll bias your opinion. If anyone needs any help, let me know.
I need help.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling it down, but it's, so,
So if you kind of like, you can go click on it and just drag it up to the top. Yeah.
oh, up here.
Yep. And then just put them in the order.
And then
you number.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. So keep dragging them all up there until I'm
Yeah,
done?
so if you want, like, you can click on something on that, so like if resilience is your top, you can just click on your second.
Oh, okay, but if it's not, leave it there, but then pull another one. Oh, then I can move around, okay. Thank you.
No worries. Whoever gave the thumbs up, I'm returning your thumbs.
Thank you. Fingers didn't walk. Is that when you're done?
Yeah, well, it shows us in that bottom right corner, it says the little person icon says how many people have submitted responses so far. So we're at 7 out of 10.
But I don't have to hit the thumbs up when it says the presenter has.
I mean, you don't have to, but it just makes me feel better.
Well, I didn't wanna do the wrong thing.
And it says, please wait.
Yep.
Present, okay, so.
Yep, so if it says, please wait, you should be all set until we go on to the next slide. Got one more. Perfect. Okay, so that's all 10. We can kind of see here, if you want to kind of discuss those results a bit.
Oh.
So it looks like safety is everybody's top priority, which is exciting and good to see. Followed by transportation options and preservation. Tied with resilience, so I like that resilience is kind of showing up in the middle of the pack, especially as it's like a new potential priority or goal for this upcoming plan. I think it's very timely, given the weather we've been having the last few months especially, and how things are trending to that just being our new normal moving forward. So I think that resilience piece is definitely very important. And so we'll be able to take these rankings and kind of use them moving forward as we develop what we want out of our new long-range transportation plan. And again, this is kind of just a high overview question to start us off. We'll work in a workshop for this at future meetings that goes into a bit more.
So thanks so far for participating, and we have one more for you. And this is about outreach strategies to get feedback from the public and stakeholders in general. So we discussed how in the past, MAPPA has attended county commission meetings, city council meetings, and basically talked to people during and after. And also we're considering the option of having an open house type meeting where it's less formal, but people can basically chat with us and share their concerns. And then virtual presentations, having a recording on a website, as well as surveys that can be done on paper or online.
So we're claiming ignorance. We're claiming, hey, most of the staff here are brand new to this RPA role. And we want your feedback and experience on how to engage with the public. And let us know. And we'll try our best as we venture through our long-range transportation plan.
I'm just gonna say that I'm glad that the font size is much larger when you're doing it on your phone.
I will say one thing, ever since COVID, we the DOT, our district anyway, our online, instead of having in-person public information meetings, which we typically would do, we've been switching more to an online format so people can look at it on their own time if they want to. They don't have to worry about being there between 4 and 6. And we're finding that people are submitting more comments and more open comments rather than being reserved like they would be at a public meeting. And so I see some benefits of the online or virtual type public involvement meetings, even though we still do like to do in person as well, but.
Like, that's what's currently going on with the Missouri Valley Bridge, correct?
Bypass.
What?
Bypass.
The bypass.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've been receiving way more comments with this format than I did at the public meeting we had for the year.
So it looks like everybody's put in their survey responses. One thing we do want to make sure we're thinking about moving forward, I think the online town halls are a great idea, especially to give more access and less time restricted on those kinds of things. I know especially for maybe some of those more rural areas, we need to consider how many people have access to those online resources who might be more likely to come to something in person versus not. So this is kind of one of these things where we want to pick your brains and get your expert advice on which of these strategies are most effective to reach people in your areas. So this is a great place to start. It sounds like county commission meetings are very effective, and those are typically us going to the meetings, attending the meetings, and then making ourselves available afterwards for people to come and talk to us about the long-range transportation plan and kind of have those more one-on-one conversations. And presenting it to the county commissions ahead of those meetings.
Thanks again for participating. And one final slide. This is a very general timeline between now and next fall. We starting basically now with community and public involvement. And then there'll be some pavement and safety analyses done closer to the end of this year. And then the demographic analysis will take place at the beginning of 2025. Draft report will be put together by July, starting sort of winter, spring. By July, there'll be a draft of it, and then it'll be open for public comment in the summer of next year. And then the final draft will be put together in late summer, early fall for a deadline of November 2025. So, thank you.
And we're looking for all the chairs to take a chapter and write it. That's what you didn't sign up for, but
I don't know.
surprise, I'm kidding.
Well, if John isn't here, he pass it off to Jacob.
But just a quick note, right now this summer, since COVID, some of our roadways have not been counted since 2016, I believe.
That's correct.
This summer, it's the Southwest Iowa portion that's getting counted. Just FYI, that is currently in the works throughout this summer. Again, very dependent on availability of resources at the DOT to be able to do these counts. So we anticipate fresh counts probably late fall, early winter. Along with that, I don't recall when the pavement management stuff goes out through Rams. Again, we'll talk in more detail about this, but we'll start bringing in additional technical and information to this group so you can see what we're seeing and help us figure out and prioritize. But those are efforts going on. Obviously, with the work on the 99 county Safe Streets for All, we're hoping to be able to collaborate with the counties and the cities on that big overarching safety and how the safe system approach can be incorporated into these rural secondary roads, as well as how that complements what cities are trying to do. So lots of great work coming up, super excited, lot of stuff coming up, honestly.
I do have a question. Have you guys heard anything from that 97 county effort? I have in my notes that May and June are when they're starting public involvement for that in the county workshops.
Those meetings are scheduled for this fall, so
Okay.
there are some phase one counties. Do you remember you are, Jake? I think Pottawattamie is in
Yeah,
September.
swapped with somebody some October now.
I think we're all starting in the fall, for the most part, after August.
For the rock rolling, or not the rock rolling, safety action plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, September is when
In September.
No, I was August, not October.
October, and you said it was
September.
September.
And you said you guys were phase 2 or phase 1?
Phase one.
Okay.
Harrison's in phase 1 too, I believe.
Dean, do you know when those meetings are going through? I know Steve's not here today, but.
Which meetings, I'm sorry?
The Safe Streets and Roads for All. It's more of a county thing, but
I do not know.
Shelby's is the 26th of September.
26th of September in Shelby County. Okay. Yeah, we can check with Steve to see when
I'm gonna invite you guys to my,
yes, please. Absolutely. And if you guys wouldn't mind inviting us to those meetings, we would very much appreciate it, just because it's gonna help us with with coordinating for the other plans and stuff as well. Cool.
Okay, additional business and public comment, Iowa DOT state rail plan.
So we had one bit of additional business, just I don't know, Scott, do you want to talk about this instead?
Basically, there's a, I don't know, survey, I guess, it was sent out to cities and counties to gather input on the potential rail plan. And I think I took the survey already, I think, at least I attempted to. And then the contacts there are Caleb and Maria. But that's really all I kind of know about it, but.
Yeah, so it's just, we've been asked to kind of help spread this out so that if anyone here has not taken this survey, this is gonna help in the development of that state rail plan. So if you have a second, there's a QR code up there for you to take it. I've got the link written down as well if you would take it later on your own time. I think there's a hyperlink in the agenda that went out with the meeting materials. So if you guys have some time to fill out that survey, it would be very helpful.
And what's important, what are they trying to capture through the survey? They're looking for information from local community members. What are your issues with rail, right? Your access points. Are you guys having issues with regards to unsignalized rail faces? Are they preventing your emergency response from meeting their emergency response time? Are you having issues with schools trying to gain access because there's a railroad in between, right? So any and all of that input, super helpful, super great. Put it in there, see what's going on, and hopefully help influence some of the state rail plans. And this applies both to passenger and freight. So, you know, if you have concerns about freight rail, you can put it in there.
Any other additional business anybody wants to?
I have a couple things.
Yep.
To piggyback off what Carlos was talking about earlier, our traffic counts will actually be starting on Monday.
Okay.
They're in training this week. They are counting the 17 counties in southwest Iowa, and like Carlos mentioned, we haven't had a count since 16 because 2020 was the next year we were supposed to, and we had this little thing called COVID going around. Another item I want to share with everybody is our commission tour meeting our commission tour will be Monday, June 10th. And we'll be starting in Council Bluffs, traveling south on I-29 to Iowa 333, which we have a flood mitigation type project we're doing in the city of Hamburg. And then we'll travel back north on I-29 to Iowa 2, and we'll take Iowa 2 to US 275. And then US 275 across on 34. We'll be having lunch in Malvern. And then we'll get back on 34 to Red Oak, and then take 48 north to Griswold, take 92 to Carson, take 59 to basically US 6, and then US 6 back into Council Bluffs, and then on I-80 going past the Madison Avenue project that's currently going on. And then the commission meeting itself will be June 11th. And then after the commission meeting on June 11th, we'll be having a ribbon cutting ceremony for the Council Bluffs Interstate at the is it Country Inn and Suites? I think it is. Can't remember. It's in a postcard though, thank you. Yeah. So that's what I have.
Where's the commissioning meeting at?
It's at the Mid-America Center. And so we were gonna have, I think the plan was we were gonna have the commission meeting at the Mid-America Center, and then after the commission meeting, we were gonna have the ribbon cutting at the Mid-America Center. The problem is room availability. Apparently they're booked that day. And so we're gonna have the ribbon cutting ceremony, I believe, is gonna be at the hotel next to the Horseshoe. Which hotel is that?
Country Inn and Suites.
Yeah, I think it is Country Inn and Suites. So yeah, look at your invitation. Make sure you don't quote me on this.
That's the day we're not having the board meeting.
Yes. I didn't catch that there was a commission meeting that day.
Yeah. And I think we've got a few delegations that have signed up to speak. I know MAPPA's gonna present. City of Council Bluffs, I believe, is gonna do the welcome. And I'm sure US 30 Coalition will be there. And I think there's a consultant that's wanting to address the commission too, so. I don't know how many delegations we're gonna end up with, but I know we have a few.
Okay, any other additional business?
Okay, next meeting, July 10th.
And we'll be presenting the final tip document at that time. We will try to put together some kind of LRTP workshop for us to go through in July as well. So it's gonna be our next steps from that LRTP discussion we had.
I will not be there on the tenth.
On the tenth? Okay.
We have our county fair going on then.
Gotcha.
And the 14th, if you guys want to bring treats, that's my birthday, so.
We'll make sure to write it in.
I may be staying for there too. then.
That's true. Yeah, so July 10th is that final tip approval and LRTP workshop, and then in August, we don't always have an August meeting, so I'll kind of leave that up to the group in July if we want to do that or not, but we were proposing possibly going through those bylaw updates and having a discussion about our project selection criteria. I know that's kind of been a topic that we keep meaning to talk about and haven't made time.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Okay, we're adjourned, I guess.
Nobody wants to.
You don't, second on adjourn.
Scott, just call, take mention on that tour of Rose Bowl that Carson.
Thanks, everyone.